This is the story of Seijo, a boy who was so down bad for his classmate Aika that he followed her around like a Wi-Fi signal with no password. Bro wasn't walking, he was orbiting her. If Aika stopped, Seijo stopped. If Aika turned, Seijo turned. At this point, even Google Maps was confused. Seijo truly believed that if he kept following her long enough, one day Aika would magically fall in love with him. Yeah, bro. And I believe I'll wake up rich tomorrow. One day, during his daily professional stalking shift, a ball flew out of the field and smacked him right in the face. And boom, character development unlocked. Seijo suddenly realized, wait, probably look like a creep. Congrats, bro. Only took public humiliation. Right then, Aika walked up and asked if he was okay. Seijo probably thought, this is it. Romance arc. But nope. She immediately told him that this happened because he was always hanging around her, and from now on, she wanted him to stay away. Emotional damage. And surprisingly, Seijo agreed without arguing. Even Aika was shocked. Like, wait, that worked. The next day at school, we meet Ki, Aika's best friend and part-time Seijo bully. She warns him that if he keeps acting like this, Aika will hate him even more. Basically saying what the entire audience has been screaming since episode 1. Then the teacher walks in and nearly faints. Why? Because Seijo is sitting peacefully in his seat, not camping near Aika's desk like a loyal dog waiting for snacks. Later in the hallway, Aika and Ki see Seijo. Aika tells him to stop following her, but Seijo calmly replies, I'm just going to the restroom, and walks away like a reformed man. The boys stop him and ask what's going on between him and Aika. Seijo says, nothing. I'm just in a different mood. Then he looks in the mirror and asks, do I really look like I'm in love with Aika? The boys laugh and say, bro, your entire personality is Aika. During break, Aika asks where he's going. Seijo says he's buying lunch. The whole class is shook, because normally this man survives on Aika's leftovers like a spoiled puppy. Then suddenly, a girl approaches him. You're Seijo, right? Man almost short circuits. She introduces herself as Rina and casually walks away, leaving Seijo mentally buffering. Back in class, the teasing starts again. Then Rina shows up looking for him, and Seijo is like, why is the universe doing this to me now? His friends start interrogating him, but before things get worse, Seijo rushes to explain everything to Aika. She looks a little upset, so he lets her go. Character growth? Maybe. Confusion? Definitely. Later, Aika completely ignores him, and Seijo, distracted like an idiot, loses a basketball match. Bro lost both the game and his dignity. While washing his face, Aika confronts him with a smirk. So, you're chasing other girls now? Referring to Rina like Seijo committed a crime. When Seijo hears that Rina recently broke up with her boyfriend, his curiosity goes crazy. He overhears the ex saying, maybe my type is someone like Aika. Seijo pauses and realizes, yeah, the world is full of weird people. Meanwhile, Seijo was about to ask Rina something, but she suddenly appears wanting to talk. Ki, smiling like a professional troublemaker, jumps in and asks Rina why she broke up with her ex. Then adds, that guy must be crazy to dump someone like you. Rina finally snaps. She tells them to stop judging other people's exes and storms off. Seijo runs after her, bumps into a cute girl carrying stuff, tries to apologize, she panics, and runs away. Another accidental harem member unlocked. When Seijo finally catches Rina, he apologizes for what Ki said. Then he admits the truth. Yes, I liked Aika, but after being rejected again and again, he decides it's finally time to move on. About time, bro. He asks Rina about her ex, and she reveals that she once heard him say he likes girls like Aika, and just like that, Seijo realizes no matter where he goes, Aika's shadow follows him harder than he ever followed her. Rina explains that her ex always said girls like Aika were his type, and even though he never truly loved Rina, hearing that still hurt like stepping on Lego barefoot. That's why she wanted him to feel the same emotional pain she did. Petty? Yes. Understandable? Also yes. At that moment, Seijo opens up for the first time in his life. Back in middle school, he got rejected so badly that the girl's boyfriend punched him and sent him flying like an anime extra. He landed right next to Aika. Everyone else backed away like drama, but Aika didn't. She held his hand, and boom, that single moment unlocked Seijo's lifelong one-sided love subscription, auto-renew enabled. Back at school, Seijo says he never expected anything from Aika anyway. The time he spent with her was already enough. Translation, I took all the LS, but at least I was there. After school, Aika suddenly shows up at Seijo's house. She says his recent normal behavior is actually creeping her out because now he's not weird anymore. Imagine being so strange that acting normal feels suspicious. Seijo clears the air and asks her out one last time. Aika rejects him again. No surprise there. But this time, Seijo doesn't even call her by name. He sincerely apologizes for bothering her all this time, with full respect. Character growth hits harder than the rejection. Then Seijo's sister, who is eavesdropping like a professional spy, interrupts them. So Seijo ends the moment and offers to walk Aika home. On the way, Aika asks what else he wanted to say. Seijo tells her that from now on, he won't bother her at all. They'll just be normal classmates. Then, jokingly, he asks if she has any friends who might be his type. Big mistake. Aika gets hurt, angry, and runs away. Congrats, Seijo. You unlocked new emotional damage DLC. The next day, Seijo tells Ki that it's finally time to move on. He looks at his new seat like it's a fresh life restart. But Ki drops a bomb. She says Aika never had friends because Seijo was always hanging around her, so other girls stayed away. Ouch. That hit harder than the basketball loss. This only strengthens Seijo's resolve. From now on, he'll truly support Aika from a distance, so she can be happy. During break, the same old guy Yamaki asks Seijo if he's feeling down. Seijo just smiles, says something vague, and walks out like a mysterious anime protagonist. On the way, he runs into Run, the sharp, no-nonsense president of the school's moral public committee. Seijo realizes she's connected to the girl he bumped into earlier. He apologizes and tries to leave, but Rin stops him. She explains the girl is uncomfortable around boys, which is why she ran away. Seijo starts walking again, but Run grabs his arm and drags him straight to the student counseling room. Bro accidentally entered a side quest. There, Rin introduces the girl, Yu Inami. She's hardworking, disciplined, and part of the moral committee. But sometimes, her confidence crashes harder than Seijo's love life. Seijo suggests maybe Yu feels that way, because she's always comparing herself to someone as perfect as Rin. Rin smiles and admits that when she tries to motivate others, they often say, "You're the president. Everything's easy for you." Basically, you wouldn't understand. Seijo gives unexpected advice. You don't need to motivate them. Just stand beside them. A light pat on the shoulder is enough. For a leader like Run, even silent support carries weight. Your presence alone can give them confidence. Rin is low-key impressed. As Seijo leaves, Rin asks his name. Seijo panics and lies. "My name's Yamaki." Bro stole another man's identity like it's nothing. The next day, Seijo helps his sister Ki, the vice president, carry supplies to the student council room. Ki notices Aika walking alone again and nudges Seijo. "Go on. This time, talk properly." And just like that, the story prepares to emotionally attack the audience again. When the two meet, the air between Seijo and Aika is so tense you could slice it with a butter knife. No talking, no eye contact. They just walk together in silence like two NPCs who forgot their dialogue lines. As soon as they reach school, Ki drops bad news. "Hey Seijo, Rin, the moral committee president, is looking for you," and she's mad. Seijo immediately tries to escape like a guilty criminal. But nope, Rin appears out of nowhere and blocks his path. "Why did you lie about your name? No warm-up, no hello. Straight to the boss fight." She orders him to come to the counseling room during break. During break, Seijo arrives with snacks like he's bribing a police officer. Rin asks again why he lied about his name. Seijo explains, "Think about it. If a girl from the moral committee knew my real name, it could cause problems. And honestly, borrowing Yamaki's name doesn't hurt anyone. Bro really said identity theft is fine if it's convenient." Seijo stands up to leave, but Rin stops him. Turns out, that wasn't the real reason she called him. You wanted to apologize. Yu sincerely apologizes and says she'll try her best to overcome her fear of men. Character growth unlocked, slowly, but it counts. On the way back to class, Seijo notices Aika is surrounded by other girls. Actual friends. Not Seijo. Not emotional support human. When Ki asks if he'll sit with them, Seijo refuses. Inside his heart, he realizes something painful. Maybe I was the reason Aika never had friends. Maybe I kept her world too small. Congrats, bro. Self-awareness arc finally activated. Then the vice president assigns Seijo to boring administrative duties. Because, of course, suffering never takes a break. Meanwhile, Yu tells Rin that while apologizing, she felt like Seijo wanted to say something but held back. Aika's new friends ask if they can visit her house because her little sister is so cute. Plans are made. Then Ki looks at Seijo and asks, "You're coming too, right?" Seijo immediately looks at Aika like a puppy waiting for approval. Bad move. Aika shuts it down hard. She says she'd never let some random boy wander around her little sister. That one hurt. Direct hit. No armor. On his way home, Seijo is surprised when Aika suddenly asks, "So, you're really not coming to my place?" Bro's brain crashes. Before he can answer, Rin appears again and says she needs to talk to him privately. Aika says nothing and lets Seijo leave with her. Rin gets straight to the point. "What did you really think about Yu's apology?" Seijo answers honestly. "It felt like she was apologizing because she was standing in front of someone like you, not because she fully meant it." A few days later, Rin asks why Seijo still hasn't spoken to Aika. Seijo says he's afraid that talking to her might ruin the progress she's made with her new friends. Then we meet Sasaki, the handsome soccer club guy, the genetically blessed one. He casually shows Seijo pictures of Aika's little sister that he secretly took outside her house. "Yeah, that's creepy, my guy." He even sends those photos to his own sister, who apparently has a brother complex. Anime logic at its finest. Later, during break, Seijo is eating alone when Yamasaki invites him to join their group. As they eat, some girls start teasing him. "So did anything serious ever happen between you and Aika? And what about when Rin showed interest?" Before Seijo can answer, Aika storms in, grabs him, and drags him away like an angry girlfriend in denial. Seijo is completely confused. Aika demands to know why he was talking to those girls. For a brief second, her eyes show jealousy and concern. Then she turns around and leaves without another word. Yeah, totally normal I don't care behavior. Later, Seijo is chatting with Ki when Hayato, the student council president, pulls him aside. Hayato explains that Ki, Seijo's sister, has been feeling uneasy lately. She thinks she might be responsible for Seijo changing so much, like maybe something she said ruined his carefree youth. Seijo understands and goes with Hayato to meet her. Seijo tells Ki that she doesn't need to be scared of sharing her feelings. The changes he made were his own choice. Ki admits she feels like she's the reason Seijo gave up on the girl he loved. love. And Seijo smiles and says, "That's enough. I've never really seen you as some sweet, gentle big sister anyway, so don't force yourself to change. Sibling bonds be like that sometimes, rude, honest, but weirdly warm." While they're talking, Aika suddenly appears, clearly upset, and tells Seijo to apologize for speaking to his sister like that. Seijo, with zero filter, asks, "Did you really come all this way just because you were worried about me?" Aika says nothing, but her face exposes her harder than a confession scene. She turns around and walks away without another word. The next day, Ki admits she might have been a little too harsh on Seijo lately. Aika, looking shy and awkward, apologizes and says it felt strange that Seijo got close to her little sister so quickly. Ki points out that Aika's been acting low energy lately, like something's missing ever since Seijo stopped following her around. Aika doesn't understand her own feelings, but Ki says it straight. Maybe Seijo actually matters to you. Maybe it's time you do something for him. Meanwhile, Ki turns to Seijo and says, "Bro, get a haircut. You're starting to look homeless." Seijo laughs. "Before, I did everything to impress Aika. Now that I don't have that mission anymore, I even forgot haircuts exist." After class, Aika awkwardly tries to reconnect with Seijo, but he completely misses the signal and goes off to eat lunch alone. Smooth, bro, very smooth. Then Rin appears and says, "Come eat with us. He wants you to sit with us." At lunch, we meet Yu's childhood friend, who looks uncomfortable seeing Seijo get close to you. Protective energy activated. After eating, Rin asks Seijo how he feels about Yu's change. Instead of answering, Seijo asks about Yu. Rin explains Yu is basically Yu's second mother, loving, protective, and extremely possessive. Not the type Seijo was imagining at all. In fact, you never thought badly of him. She knows Seijo helped you overcome her fear of boys. Rin adds that Seijo didn't just help you, he also helped Rin herself, giving her a new way to support her team. Then Rin casually mentions Seijo's sister by name. Seijo freezes. "Wait, you know my sister?" Rin smiles. "Yeah, since middle school. She was a spoiled, rebellious menace back then. Totally untamable. Sibling roast unlocked." Later, Seijo notices Sasaki looking stressed. His younger sister keeps spamming his phone like, "Where are you? Who are you with? Why aren't you replying?" Eventually, Sasaki pulls Seijo aside and asks the big question. "So, what's really going on between you and Aika?" Turns out, Sasaki likes Aika. For real. That hits Seijo right in the chest. Now it starts looking like Aika and Sasaki are slowly getting closer. As Seijo is about to leave, Aika stops him. "Where do you go during lunch these days?" Seijo answers honestly, "I eat with the girls from the moral committee." Aika looks confused. "So, you're not sitting with us anymore?" And in that moment, Seijo realizes he's already stepped back without even trying. As he turns to leave, Aika suddenly says, "You know, maybe I wouldn't have even talked to you that day if your hair hadn't been black." That night, Seijo goes out to buy black hair dye. Out of stock, so he buys dark brown instead. With his sister's help, he dyes his hair overnight, almost like resurrecting the old Seijo. The next day, exam results drop. Seijo's rank has fallen hard. He's no longer at the top. Maybe without chasing Aika, his motivation disappeared too. Then he checks the topper's list and freezes. Aika is in the top 3. Her old rank, 27. It finally hits him. Maybe he was the reason she never rose higher before. While he fell, she climbed. A few days later, Aika's friends once again plan to visit her house, still obsessed with her cute little sister. Sasaki jokes, "So, will Seijo be invited this time?" And in the past few days, the distance between Aika and Seijo has grown so quietly that even the audience can feel it. Two people who used to be inseparable, now standing on opposite sides of silence. One day after lunch, Seijo hears some girls outside talking about Aika. He tries to casually join the conversation, and one girl screams like she saw a ghost. Seijo, instead of apologizing like a normal human, copies her scream to play it off as a joke. The girls leave, embarrassed. "Congrats, Seijo, you unlocked social skills." Still loading. Another day, Seijo and Aika walk to school together when it suddenly starts raining. They accidentally bump into each other, and suddenly a car speeds toward a puddle, ready to soak Aika like laundry. Without thinking, Seijo steps in front of her and takes the entire splash himself. Full sacrifice mode. Zero hesitation. Absolute anime protagonist behavior. By the time they reach school, Seijo looks like he lost a fight with a washing machine. At his desk, he collapses, fever blazing, system overheating. On the way to the nurse's office, his condition worsens and his mind drifts back to middle school, back when his lunch fell on the ground and he first met the girl he'd end up loving for years. Yeah, even his origin story is tragic. At the nurse's office, the nurse explains that Seijo's condition is worse because his mental state is unstable. Translation, this boy has emotional damage. Back in class, Rin comes looking for him. When she hears he's sick, she says she'll inform Seijo's sister and go visit him together. When they arrive, Seijo is unconscious in bed. He wakes up apologizing like it's his fault for troubling everyone. When Aika reaches out to check his temperature, Seijo stops her. "I don't want you to get sick. Please don't touch me." But when his sister and Run do the same thing, no resistance at all. Aika watching this like, "So, I see how it is." A few days later, the blonde girl from before talks to Seijo again. When she spots Aika, she immediately approaches her. She introduces herself as Claudine, a candidate for student council president, and asks Aika for support. Without missing a beat, Seijo jumps in. "So, you just want Aika as your campaign poster, right?" Then he continues, absolutely destroying her confidence. "That's a terrible idea. idea. Aika is way prettier than you. People will think she's the real candidate, and when they find out it's actually you, they'll be disappointed. Claudine's soul leaves her body. She snaps, lashes out at Aika, then storms off dramatically in front of a small crowd. Political career ended before it began. Later, while Seijo is searching for lunch, Yu calls him over to eat with her. Ren also invites him, saying she still hasn't managed to recruit even one boy from the first or second years. While eating, Yu suddenly takes Seijo's hand and says, "I trust you." The rest of the moral committee girls immediately burst into silent jealousy flames. Shortly after, an announcement comes from the student council and moral committee. Some middle school students will be visiting the high school, and volunteers are needed as guides. A game will decide who gets picked. Both Seijo and Aika participate. Seijo gets lucky and avoids being chosen. Aika does not. Then Sasaki, clearly interested in Aika, switches places with someone else just to become a volunteer and spend time with her. Smooth move, soccer boy. Next, we see Seijo working part-time at an old book and magazine shop. During his shift, he notices some middle school boys bullying a younger kid. Seijo immediately steps in, asking for a family member's phone number so he can call them. Responsible, calm, mature. Then a woman arrives, calm, elegant, grown-up looking. Seijo instantly assumes she's a university student. The next day, while Seijo is sitting alone, he asks if he received Ren's invitation to join the Moral Public Committee. She adds that if he doesn't join, he should join the student council instead. Why? Because she doesn't want the council to end up controlled by some random, unknown person. Politics again. High school edition. That evening, the same woman from yesterday returns to the shop. Seijo, a bit nervous, admits that she looked so mature she intimidated him. She smiles and says, "That's the first time anyone's ever said that. People usually say she says people usually call her cute or childlike for her age." Yeah, Seijo really judged her whole life stage in 5 seconds. Respect. After chatting a bit more, she thanks Seijo for helping her that day and says something important. Talking to him made her realize a lot of things, especially because she hadn't had a proper conversation with a boy in a long time. Before leaving, she gives him a small gift and asks if she can come to the store again. Bro accidentally unlocked a wholesome side character. A few days later, the same girl, Fuka, comes back to the shop. They chat again, and Seijo compliments the handmade accessory she's wearing. Fuka explains she made it herself with her dad at a small shop near the seaside. When Seijo hears the name of that place, his brain immediately goes, "Should I get something like this for Aika this year? Maybe do one last special thing for my one-sided love?" Yeah, bro, emotional damage never really leaves. But then he sees how happy Fuka looks while talking about that place. That joy is real, and Seijo realizes this trip actually means a lot to her. So he casually asks, "Would you like to go there with me?" Smooth, calm, growth detected. At the metro station, Seijo notices Fuka looks uncomfortable. He asks if everything's okay. She quietly says going out dressed like this feels strange, since she usually wears her middle school uniform. Seijo is shocked. "Wait, don't your friends say anything?" Fuka smiles and says they do, but she's attached to those clothes. Letting go isn't easy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Aika's friends are planning a beach trip with her little sister. On the way, they pass by Seijo's house and invite him. He refuses because he's already going to the beach with Fuka. Somewhere, fate smirks. At the beach, Seijo starts wondering what college dates must be like. After a pause, he asks Fuka if she comes here often. She says yes, every year with her family, but not too often because her swimsuits don't last long. Anime logic, don't ask questions. They then visit the seaside shop where Fuka used to come with her dad. The shop owner immediately recognizes her and comments on how mature she seems. When they explain they're just friends, the shop owner relaxes and gives them a tour, teaching them how to make handmade accessories. While crafting, Seijo starts thinking, if this gift is for Aika, it needs to be perfect. He's so focused that the shop owner notices and gives him a few good ideas. Then Fuka suddenly asks the dangerous question, "Is the girl you're making this for your girlfriend?" Seijo smiles softly. No, Fuka presses further. "Then why make such a special gift for someone who isn't your girlfriend?" Seijo answers without hesitation. "Even if she's no longer the one I love, those feelings don't disappear in one day. My love for Aika wasn't meaningless. It helped me become a better person." That line hit harder than expected. Fuka smiles faintly and says most people would be happy to receive a gift from someone close to them. Those words lock Seijo's decision in place. He will give Aika a special gift on her birthday. While crafting, Seijo notices a photo of Fuka with her father on the wall. He asks if she has a younger sister. Fuka says no. The photo was taken recently when she visited with her dad. Then comes the twist. Fuka, who looked like a university student this whole time, is actually a final year student at an all-girls high school. Plot twist unlocked. Later, Fuka suddenly asks, "Why are you still doing all this for a girl you've already let go of?" Seijo stays silent for a moment, then replies, "Maybe now I'm doing it for myself." Then smiling, he adds, "Maybe you'll understand when you fall in love someday." Fuka blushes and shyly asks, "What exactly is love?" Seijo admits he doesn't really know either, but whatever he felt back then made him more human. Somewhere else, Aika sees someone who looks like Seijo walking with a girl. She stares, then shakes her head. No way, that idiot wouldn't do that. Denial stage. activated. Meanwhile, Seijo tells Fuka not to be nervous about love. Those feelings come into life without warning. A few days later, a shy girl named Anos walks into Seijo's bookstore. She's his classmate and is looking for a part-time job because Seijo is about to quit. And just like that, another chapter quietly begins. The shop owner doesn't even ask Anos for a resume. Why? Because she's already a regular customer and they trust her more than online reviews. But then the owner's wife takes one look at her and says, "Those bangs are hiding half your face. You should trim them." Critical hit. Later, Seijo asks the real question. How do you even read books with bangs that long? Anos calmly pulls out a hair clip and explains she always wears it while reading. The shop Annie nods in approval like, acceptable. You may work. The next day, Seijo is assigned as her trainer. First lesson, always wear your hair clips while working. Priorities people. As Seijo explains the job, he notices Anos is extremely quiet and reserved. Like background character quiet. Then a rude customer shows up and makes things awkward. Anos freezes. Seijo steps in like a customer service superhero. But after the guy leaves, Anos breaks down and starts crying inside. Seijo immediately wonders, is she really ready for this job? Instead of giving up on her, Seijo decides to teach her how to deal with customers. While standing at the counter, Seijo asks the owner if his wife is really okay with such a shy girl handling customers. The owner smiles and says Anos is actually one of the shop's most interesting regulars. Hearing that, Seijo promises he'll help her fit into the role. He gives her advice. Listen carefully. Even if customers are rude, respond with confidence. Don't panic like your soul is leaving your body. When Seijo asks if she feels pressure to prove herself, Anos quietly says no, but she also says she doesn't want to quit. That's all Seijo needed to hear. He tells the owner he'll do everything he can to help her continue working. Later, they even video call Aika for advice. Aika, being mature for once, gives them space so they can talk properly. The next morning, Seijo apologizes for pushing her too hard and gives her even more tasks to help her improve. Yes, this man teaches by suffering. During break, Seijo asks why this job matters so much to her. Anos finally opens up. She wants to become independent, especially from her older brother. Why? Because one day, she saw a pair of heels at home, then accidentally witnessed her brother passionately kissing a girl in his room. That image shook her soul. Trauma unlocked. A few days later, Fuka visits again. Since she loves books, Seijo arranges a practice customer interaction between them. Fuka does great. Anos starts strong, then completely freezes mid-sentence. Everyone laughs. Character development loading slowly. Later, Seijo explains that he got Anos this job, so she could replace him when he leaves, since the workload isn't that heavy. That evening, while making coffee for his sister, Seijo wonders if Anos chose this job simply because she had no one else to talk. No close friends, just silence. When he returns to the shop, he finds Anos carrying boxes of books like a tiny elementary school kid. But the way she handles them is careful and sincere. Seijo smiles and tells her, "You're doing it perfectly." That was something the shopkeeper taught her, and her smile at that moment is genuinely beautiful. By noon, work ends, and Anos' older brother finally arrives. He asks her to come eat with him, but when he steps closer, Anos suddenly clings to Seijo. Her brother is stunned. Why are you holding on to this guy? Anos doesn't answer. She just holds Seijo tighter, like a kid clinging to her hero. And in Seijo's heart, a dangerous thought appears. Is this the beginning of a new relationship? To clear things up, Seijo takes Anos and her brother to a restaurant. There, Seijo straight up asks the brother if he even knows why Anos started working part-time. The brother goes silent. Yeah, he had no idea. Embarrassed, he promises he won't neglect his sister anymore and will spend time with her like before. Then Yuri, the brother's girlfriend, arrives. She politely apologizes to Anos, saying, "I know I interfered in your life. Maybe this all happened too fast. I don't want to be the reason a family falls apart." Before things get awkward, Seijo steps in and says, "At least hear Anos out. She has something to say too." And with that, the story sets up yet another emotional confrontation. Because in this anime, communication always comes after maximum pain. Seijo tells them straight up that Anos has been doing an amazing job at the bookstore. He says he wants her brother and Yuri's relationship to stay exactly as it is, so Anos can keep growing in her own way. Living apart from her brother doesn't mean their bond is over. They can still laugh like siblings do. And most importantly, Anos has the right to choose her own path. That it's hard. Yuri and the brother get emotional and quietly leave. Seijo then turns to Anos and says, "They came to take you back, but I don't think your passion should be wasted." Anos finally looks relieved. A few days later, Fuka comes back to the shop, and Seijo is genuinely stunned by how beautiful she looks. Bro is like, is this really just a high school student? At the same time, he looks at Anos and realizes something funny. Everyone assumes Anos is a middle schooler, but she's in college. And everyone thinks Fuka is in college, but she's still in high school. Anime logic strikes again. Because both girls love books, Fuka and Anos quickly become friends. Soft, wholesome bonding unlocked. Later, Ki walks up to Seijo and casually says, "We know everything." Student council intel is no joke. She says they know he's been helping Anos. Seijo jokes back, "With how hard you work, you look like an overworked office employee." Ki smirks and replies, "If you have so much free time, why don't you help me with the school tour?" Seijo instantly refuses. Then Ki adds, "Not for me, for Run." Ah yes, the ultimate trap card. Since Seijo still owes Rin a favor, he agrees. He calls Run and asks if she needs help. Rin politely declines, but Seijo says he planned to to ask her in person anyway. After hesitating for a moment, Rin accepts. The next day, Rin explains that during the school tour, the student council and class delegates will guide the visiting middle schoolers. Their job is to make sure everything looks perfect. In a light tone, Rin adds that when choosing guides, the school probably prioritized good-looking and sociable students. Seijo looks at her and smiles. So am I one of them? Smooth. Dangerous. Growth confirmed. Later, at a morality committee meeting, Enos's brother admits that after the restaurant talk, his sister kept talking about Seijo nonstop. She suddenly had more energy, like she finally found someone who truly supported her. Meanwhile, Sasaki invites Aika to football practice. She refuses because she has to take care of her little sister. This gives us a glimpse into Aika's past, how looking after her sister slowly erased her social life. But then, one day, a boy appeared, a boy whose lunch tray fell to the ground. When no one else helped him, Aika saw herself in him, lonely, awkward, and struggling. So she reached out her hand. A few days later, that same boy gathered his courage and said, "Your kindness has captivated me. Will you go out with me?" Aika turned him down. She said she already had too many responsibilities. But the boy didn't give up. He followed her around, smiled endlessly, and even enrolled in the same school as her. Despite her average grades, he passed the entrance exam just for her. Because of Aika, he met new people. Because of Aika, he learned what a happy school life felt like. But ever since Seijo stopped following her, a strange emptiness began growing inside Aika. Was her life really complete without him? Lost in that unease, she suddenly spots Seijo and runs straight into him. Literally, Seijo is shocked. "What happened? Are you okay?" Aika stays quiet for a moment, then admits, "We haven't talked in so long. I was feeling down." Seijo smiles softly and says he wanted to talk too, but he's been busy with committee work and his job. Then, in a slightly jealous tone, Aika asks, "Was it because of that?" Eno's thing. Seijo freezes for a second, then smiles. "Yeah, and honestly, thanks to your advice, I was able to handle her better." Aika doesn't reply. Seijo tries to change the topic. "So what have you been up to lately?" But before she can answer, Ki shows up and completely ruins the mood. As usual, Seijo explains that he's been helping the committee at Ren's request and adds that the school anime cuts the scene because emotional progress must always be delayed. The school openly admits they picked attractive students as guides, so more juniors would want to enroll. Marketing strategy: pretty faces equals admissions. Ki, in full teasing mode, nudges Seijo and says, "So, you're helping Enos a lot too, huh? You didn't fall for her, did you?" Seijo gets awkward real quick. Conversation instantly dies. Mission failed. Before leaving, Aika quietly says, "Let's meet again once all this student council stuff is over." A few days later, senior students give a motivational speech, and we see Fuka touring the school with Aika and Sasaki's group. That's when Aika notices some boys harassing Rina, trying to force a confession. Without hesitation, Aika storms over and shuts them down with ice-cold authority. By the end of the tour, those boys are completely ashamed. They apologize to Aika and swear they'll never do it again, especially since they really want to enroll in this school. Character development unlocked. Before the tour ends, Fuka spots Seijo from a distance and runs to him. The girls with her whisper, "So you're the famous Seijo?" The one who taught someone as innocent and confused as Fuka the true meaning of life. Fuka smirks and drops a bomb. "No point asking now. Seijo and I already have a deep bond from when we went to the seaside together." Aika instantly gets annoyed and drags Seijo away with Ki. They corner him and start interrogating him about Fuka. Aika, blushing slightly, says, "If you're going to spend time with Fuka, then you'll have to spend just as much time with us too." A few days later, Seijo and Enos are closing the shop because of heavy rain. Suddenly, Seijo sees Aika walking toward him, completely soaked. She looks at him and asks, "Have you really changed?" Then quietly adds, "I came just to see you." She asks if Seijo plans to keep his part-time job. Seijo replies he'll quit after summer vacation. Enos looks a little sad, but Seijo reassures her, "You're standing on your own now. You don't need me anymore." Right then, Fuka walks into the shop, drenched. Seeing Aika, she thanks her for the guidance she gave earlier. Enos pulls Aika aside to dry off, since they've become book chat buddies. Then, classic anime moment, Aika slips and falls straight into Seijo's arms. The girls laugh, apologize for spying, and close the door. Alone again, Aika hesitates, then says, "I came to talk about you coming over to our house." Seijo is shocked. That invitation is still valid? Aika nods. "Yes, but you have to act like a good big brother. And honestly, I want you to come." The next day, Seijo is mentally preparing to ring Aika's doorbell when Ki shows up and rings it instantly. Inside, Seijo meets Aika's little sister, who is pure chaos energy. Aika explains she's usually quiet, but with Seijo, she's just too excited. After playing for a while, Seijo nearly collapses from exhaustion. Then Aika's mom comes home. Seijo instantly switches to respectful mode. "I'm Seijo." Her mom smiles. "Oh, are you the Seijo my daughter talks about so often?" Aika turns red and panics. "Mom, my friends are leaving." As Seijo leaves, her mom says, "Next time we'll talk more." On the way home, Ki deliberately takes another route, leaving Aika and Seijo alone. Aika says, "School life has been more fun lately. Maybe because I've made so many friends." Seijo, feeling guilty, says, maybe that's because I stopped sticking around. Aika shakes her head. No, if it weren't for you, I'd never have opened up. My family issues, money problems, they kept me closed off. But you helped me accept people again. She continues softly. Yes, I have friends now, but something still feels missing. She looks at him. Someone whose absence I always notice. Someone who feels like home. That someone is you. Fireworks explode in the sky. Startled, Aika gently clings to Seijo and whispers, will you call my name again? As the fireworks fade, she reaches for his fingers and holds his hand. This time, Seijo holds back. He walks her home, hand in hand. The next morning, Seijo steps outside and sees Aika waiting for him, just like before. But this time, they walk forward together. And that's where this beautiful anime comes to an end. Blue Heart.